Rambam. Hilchos Nidarim, we're in the laws of vows. We did oaths. Vows are different. Oath is about you. A vow is about a thing. So an oath would be, I'm going to bring an offering. Vow would be, this is the offering, right? And many other. An oath is using God's name, or a derivative, or even saying, the merciful one, right? So it's a reference to God of everything's in vain here. We're talking about it. That's the point, right? That's an oath. A vow was without God's name. Just, I vow to do this, right? Some of the differences. Okay. Vows taken because of coercion, vows taken unintentionally, vows involving exaggerations are permitted, as explained with regard to oaths. That we'll see in Halacha 4. Right. So if men of coercion or custom collectors made him take a vow, right? Saying, take a vow to us that meat is forbidden to you. If you possess something on your customs duty, if you possess something on which customs duty is due, right? They're coercing him. Custom collectors back then were not, good people.
Today too, sometimes.
Huh?
Today too.
Yeah. Yeah, they had more lateral power back in the day than, even though today they have power. It's true. Exactly. Should he take the vow and say, bread, meat, and wine are forbidden to me? He is permitted to partake of all of them, even though he added to what they asked him to say, right? Because it was under coercion. So he's permitted. Similarly, if they asked him to take a vow on the condition that his wife not benefit, and he took a vow on the condition that his wife, his children, and brothers not benefit from him, they're all permitted. Similar laws apply in analogous situations, right? So as we said over here, they're permitted, right? Because, in other words, the vow doesn't take effect because it was under coercion. If in all vows of this type, he must have the intent at heart for something that is permitted. For example, that they be forbidden to him for the day alone, or for the hour alone, or the like. He may rely on the intent in his heart since he is being compelled by forces beyond his control. So it's interesting how much you would think that, well, it's under coercion, so therefore whatever I said means nothing, right? He says, no, after all, you did say something, right? And words do mean something. Where do we know that from? Today's Tanya. Wow, look at that, the right? The feeling in the heart is nothing, right? Because the feeling from the heart would not bring to an expression of I love you or you're amazing, right? No light, no whatchamacallit, right? So no, see, but that's not the point I'm making. It should be on the opposite, not permitted. You said it. You created something. So that's why it's important over here that since it is coercion, that in your heart intend those words to mean something. I will not eat meat. In your heart, though, was for an hour. Right? They're making me saying, I'm not going to eat meat, period. That's what they mean. But but since it's coercion, I'm not going to say that, because if I say that, then, but that's what those words mean. That's how important your words are. Therefore, you need to have the intent to permit it that you only say for an hour in your heart. Is that clear?
But even that's like an addition to what that's like a modifying thing to what you're actually saying.
No, because that's what you mean by those
That's
words.
and then in my heart, I'm like, for an hour. That's like assigning a condition to what I just said.
Right, but that's what those words mean.
But this is all permitted under coercion.
Because it's under coercion, right?
Okay. But if it wasn't under coercion, then that would just
No, then what you say is what you say.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
But you get a little bit.
But don't forget what you say can always what you say, because we learned this earlier. What you say can always there's always an interpretation to what you say.
Yeah.
Always, there's always going to be interpretation, right? I'll say one thing and you'll think I mean one thing and you think I'll mean another thing.
Yeah.
Right. So there's always an interpretation to it, right?
Sure.
So no, subjectively, because I'll say one thing and you could take it one way and you could take it a different way.
Yeah.
In the very same words, right? That's subjective, not objectively, right? Because words are subjective. So therefore, they're being subject to his feelings, his thoughts, rather than what they're coercing him and what they think and their thoughts are what those words mean. Now, no. In other instances, when you just said the word and there isn't another modifier, another principle. This is a principle called coercion, right? There's a principle about coercion, what coercion means, and therefore that is throwing into the mix into what you said, right? If there was no coercion, so then what you said then will be objective based on law, what those words mean. Then it will be objective.
Based on the law, not based on what one person might think.
Right. But then that itself is based on subjectivity, as the Rambam taught us, that in one place, if you said these words, it means this, and in another place, it means something else. We had it yesterday, the word cherem, which means to give sanctity to something. Well, what kind of sanctity? Is it sanctity for the Beis Hamikdash, or is it sanctity for the Kohen? And it meant a different law as a result of that. If I was sanctifying something, right? So in one place it could mean one thing, and in another place it mean another thing. So you take into consideration the colloquial terms and the way it's used there in an objectified manner. But it's based on what's how that word is used in that community. Could be in two different communities, used different ways.
So then, do you ever have a halakhic outcome where it's like, oh, it could mean this, it could mean that?
Obviously, there will be and that's how you can get a dispute, because maybe it was like that. It's not. Yeah.
So there's never like a definitive, like this is what it means objectively, even in a case when there's no coercion.
Perspective. Everybody has a different perspective.
Yeah, it's meant to be that way.
But in the case of coercion, there's more like leeway in terms of interpreting.
Well, we're saying because now it's based on the person who's being coerced.
Yeah,
it's based on what he's thinking in his mind.
Okay, so then it's all what he's thinking. Okay.
Well, I mean, this is what he's saying. Look what he's saying over there. Although he must have intended in his heart for something that is permitted. For example, there's that he forbidden for him for that day alone, right? The meat forbidden for that day or for that hour alone, or the like. He may rely on the intent in his heart since he's being compelled by forces beyond his control. Thus, at a time when he's taking the vow for them, his mouth and his heart are not in concord. This is required, as we've explained, to regard with the vows. Because remember, we did learn earlier that if I said, it happens at times, I say something, I didn't mean that. I meant in my heart, I meant something differently, right? So for a vow to take effect, it has to be in accord to what you've actually in your heart you felt, right? If not, then it doesn't take effect. Now, how do you know that is a different discussion. That's right. That's why words matter, and you have to be very careful on how you express. What does that mean?
What I mean is that if you're saying like
what do you mean? We're just saying you did. You made a vow under coercion. The tax collector
But it
came
wasn't
and
in your
made.
heart of hearts, it was because you wanted to.
So this is the way you have to do it. But you did say something. You did make a vow. Your words were that of a vow. Okay. If I'm hiding any tax from you, I will not eat meat. Right? And the tax collector is thinking that it means forever. And I'm saying in my mind, I'm saying for an hour because it has to be because I'm being coerced.
That's what you're, okay, yeah.
Okay, we're good, everybody.
We're not eating meat for an hour.
Wait.
Self-bestow that. We're above average.
I don't know. At this point, I'm not certain. Okay. Similarly, vows of encouragement are permitted. What does that imply? One administered an oath to a colleague to eat at his home, and the colleague took the vow not to eat there because he did not want to trouble him. Whether he ate or did not eat, they are both exempt. Right? So here it's different, not coercion, but in a sense, it's not coercion. But a guy says, "Here, take a vow. You're going to come and eat at my place." He says, "No, I'm not. I'm taking a vow. I'm not," because he doesn't want to bother the guy. He knows his wife is not feeling well, or whatever. I'm giving it right. He knows his wife is not feeling well, and he doesn't want to, put a burden on him. And he's only doing it because I came out of town, and I'm his best friend, and he feels he's got to take care of me. I don't want to do that, so he's taking an oath the opposite, right? Both are exempt, right? Because because it wasn't really meant. Remember, it has to be what you really wanted. Similarly, if a merchant took a vow that he would not sell an article for less than a selah, the purchaser took a vow that he would not buy it for more than a shekel. If they agree on 3 denarim, they're both exempt.
So in this case, people are making vows, but they're kind of in their hearts being like, well,
Yeah, and they're in other words, it's business. Like
yeah,
in business, so I'm
yeah.
making it off, not selling it for less than this. I'm making it off, not going to buy it more than this. So it's like you're playing a game,
Yeah.
right? Huh?
You have to be self-aware.
Whatever. Or no, these are people not self-aware because they're playing a game, right? They're playing a game because of business, right?
But regardless if they're aware or not, they're not doing anything wrong in this case.
Right. Similar laws apply in an analogous situation. Rational is that neither of them made a definitive conclusion in his heart. That's the key. Because remember, what you say has to reflect what's in your heart. He took the vow only to encourage his colleague without making a definitive conclusion in his heart. Maybe, 1 second.
Salesman. That's what we do.
Okay. So a selah, 2 denarim is half a selah. And he's buying it for 3.
Before.
So 1 second. 2 denarim. This is 3 denarim. So he's selling it. A selah is 4. He sold it for 3 less than what, right? And a shekel is 2. So he bought it for more and he sold it for less. So both of them didn't fulfill what they said they would do, right? But since it's not really in their heart, right? Okay. What is the source that teaches that it's forbidden for a person to take even these 4 types of vows, which are permitted with the intent of nullifying them? It is written, he shall not desecrate his word. He should not make his word an inconsequential matter. So you shouldn't do this, right? But it's because you're making your words, you're desecrating your word. Your words should not be inconsequential. God's words are not inconsequential. So ours, right? Today's Chetanya, unbelievable. When a person took a vow and then changed his mind and regretted his vow, he may approach a sage and ask for its release. That's called Hafaras Nidarim. Right? The laws pertaining to the release of vows are the same that apply with the release of oaths. Same idea, right? A vow can be released only by a distinguished sage or three ordinary men in a place where there are no sages.
The ordinary.
Right? Ordinary,
So they
they have to be somewhat learned. They have to know what they're doing, but they're not a sage. That's the point.
Might be possible.
The same wording is used to release a vow as that was release an oath. Similarly, all of the other concepts that we've explained with regards to oaths apply the vows in the same way as they apply to oaths. We do not release a vow until it takes effect as the law pertaining to an oath. Right. In other words, if it was something of the future, I vow that, in a month from now, da-da-da.
You don't need to release it.
Well, only when it takes effect, you release it.
So if I say in a month, I'm gonna give you $10,000.
Right. I vow to give that, right?
Yeah, but then once I give you I have to give you when it takes effect, that means I have to give you when it's a month's time, I suppose, then you get it released. Right? Like,
Then you'd have to be released from it when it takes effect, the vow.
so, but does that mean when you're seeking the release, it has to be like at the 1 month mark?
That's what we just said. Exactly
Okay,
what we
just
just said.
making sure.
Exactly what we just said. All right, look, we do not release a vow until it takes effect. So it would only take effect in a month. It wouldn't take effect now, right? If you're going to give it in a month, if the vow was to give it in a month, so it's not taking effect now, it's only taking effect in a month. So you can only get a release once it takes effect.
After he gives 10,000.
No, before he gave the 10,000. Once he gave the 10,000, then he fulfilled his vow. He fulfilled his vow.
But my question is that when you're like going before the three ordinary men and you're saying I'm in a month I have this vow, can you release?
No, you can't be released now. No.
But that means then you have to like make sure you're like next to three ordinary men when like the month comes.
Okay, so.
Okay.
So don't make the vow to begin with if you're so. Yeah. All right. So. Okay. Okay. Just as we may ask for the release of vows involving prohibitions and that they be repealed, so too may we ask for the release of vows involving consecrated property and that they be repealed. This apply, right? In other words, I'm consecrating this. I'm giving $10,000 to the right. That's consecrated, right?
Yeah.
So so also when it comes to property, to do it. This applies both the articles consecrated for the upkeep of the temple and animals consecrated for the sacrifice for the altar. When the holiness of the sacrifice is transferred from one animal to another, that holiness can be released. So it can be
vow is very not written in stone.
No, not at all.
No, you can be. That's what we're learning. It can be released. An oath also can be released. The rationale is the release of vows is based on the principle that after the person changes his mind and regrets having made the vow, it is as if the vow has been made in error. Since the transfer of holiness from the sacrificial animal to another animal is binding, even if it was done in error, there is no reason for the release impossible after such a transfer has been affected. Nevertheless, if one regrets the original consecration, can be nullified, and then, as a matter of course, the animal to which the holiness is transferred will lose its status. Okay, just as a father or a husband can nullify a woman's vows involving prohibition, so too they can nullify vows of consecration that resemble vows involving prohibitions. Right? Number 9, when a person takes a vow. Right. By the way, the laws of vows, you know when it's coming? Exactly in 2 weeks. Exactly the parsha in 2 weeks. This week is Balak, next week is Pinchas, then Matis. Matis is where we learn many of the laws of vows. Okay.
Have a good day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Sei gesund. Tonight. When a person takes a vow, a colleague hears and says, and also me. The third person hears and says, and also me. If the person asks for release of his vow and his release, all the others are also released. Got that?
Yes.
But the vows of the latter individual are dependent on the vow of the first. Once the first vow is nullified, they no longer have any basis in which to stand.
Think about
No, I mean they can make their own vow on their own, but because they did it based on another person, right? They didn't make their own vow. They just said me too, right? If the one who agreed to the vow last asks for the release and it is granted, he alone is released, and the others are still bound to the vow, right? Because the last guy, let's say the fifth guy, he asked. He went to a sage or to three people, right, to be released. So he's the only one released, no one else, because he was dependent on the fourth on the third. But so he only releases himself, not anybody else. No one's standing on his shoulders. He's standing on everybody else's shoulders, right? If the second person asks for person asked for a release and it was granted, he and all those after him are released. But the first one is still bound to the prohibition. Is that clear? Similar principles apply when one has attached many entities to a single vow. He took a vow forbidding bread and extended it to meat. If he asked for release for the prohibition against bread and it is granted, the prohibition against meat is also released. If he asks for the release of the prohibition against meat and it is granted, the prohibition for bread is not released. Now, why would you do that? That's not the point here. The point is that that's what you did, right? It doesn't make sense to do that. Obviously, you want to be released from all of it. The point is that you did the various vows, one as an extension of another. So the extension is based on the original.
Okay, so it's the extension.
If you got rid of the original, you get rid of the extension. If you get rid of the extension, you don't get rid of the original.
The meat is the extension.
Right.
Gotcha.
When a person takes an oath or a vow saying, I will not benefit from any one of you, if he asks for the release of the vow or oath concerning one of them, and the release was granted, they are all released. The rationale is that the vow is released in part, all the particulars are also released. Interesting. Well, it's because it's not about the other person, it's about me in relationship to that person, right? When a person says, I will not benefit from this person, and from this person, and from this person, so now it's different, right? If the prohibition of the first, so now it's like extension. 1, 2, 3, right? 3 different people by extension. If the prohibition against the first is released, the prohibition is all of them is released. The prohibition against the last is released, prohibition is released, but the others remain binding. Same idea. If he said, I will not benefit from this one, nor from this one, nor from this one, he must ask for release from each one individually. Similar laws apply in a Gallus situation, because then it's not considered extension. Each one is like its own statement. Since he did not associate them by saying and, is considered as if he took a vow concerning each person individually. That's the difference. He didn't say here and. I will not benefit from this person. That's one vow. I will not benefit from this person. Another vow. Not benefit from this person. That's a different. If he says, I will not benefit from this one and this one and this one and this one, then it's an extension. See how words matter, right? And how we express those words, they matter. Is that clear?
Yeah.
When a person took an Nazirite vow, a vow to bring a sacrifice, and an oath forbidding himself from partaking of something. So he took a Nazirite vow, right? Or a vow to bring a sacrifice, or an oath forbidding himself from partaking of something. Or he took a vow, but does not know concerning which of these he took. The vow which he took the vow. The request to release can release all of them. So he asks for release. It will be all of them because he's not certain exactly what he did. When a person takes a vow not to benefit from the people of a city, and he asks for the release of that vow from the sage of the city, or he took a vow not to benefit from the Jewish people and asked for release, the vow of the Jewish sage, the vow is released.
That's understandable. Oh,
Okay. If one says, this product is forbidden me today, if I go to this and this place tomorrow, he is forbidden to partake of them that day. This is a decree lest he go to that place tomorrow. Right? In other words, right, I can't eat this today if I go there tomorrow. Well, you when will you know that you can't eat from it? Only if you go there tomorrow. So don't go there tomorrow. So just say, you know what? You can't eat it today. You know why? Because you might go there tomorrow. I mean, it's so stupid to make such a vow. So, you have to pay the price. If he transgressed and partook of it that day, and then undertook the journey on the morrow, he is liable for lashes. If he did not go, he's not liable for lashes. Right? Because in the end, what did he do? He transgressed his word. And remember, oaths and vows that you cross, you are liable for lashes.
he trapped himself.
Uh-huh. Now, of course, you have to be given a warning, right? Uh-huh. And the uniqueness over here is he could be completely exempt the following day because he won't go. So the warning, maybe you were thinking I'll get lashes over here because the warning that he's been given, don't eat that today because you might go there tomorrow. And, so don't eat it. You might get lashes. You'll get lashes if you do. You get lashes, even though it's conditional, because it doesn't mean you transgressed anything today. The only reason we know you transgressed it is because tomorrow you went there. Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't get lashes. Yeah. But again, it's a very unique point in law. If one says, this product is forbidden for me tomorrow, if I go to this and this place today, he is permitted to go to that place today, and the product will be forbidden for him tomorrow. That's fine. Similar laws apply. In all analogous situations, rational is that a person is careful about not violating a prohibition. We do have a general principle. People are careful that if they do make such a prohibition upon themselves, right, they're careful. But he is not careful in keeping a condition that will cause a permitted entity to become forbidden. So in other words, if I went there today, that means tomorrow's prohibited. But if I ate today, the going somewhere, right, of where I'd be permitted naturally to go, that's wouldn't be so careful. When a person takes a vow to fast for 10 days, whenever he desires, and he was fasting one day and had to interrupt the fast for the sake of a mitzvah or to honor a person of stature, he may eat and repay the fast on another day. The rationale is that he did not specify the days he would fast when he took the vow initially. Right. If he took a vow that he would fast today, but forgot and ate, he must continue to refrain from eating. If he took a vow to fast for a day or two, and when he began to fast, he forgot and ate, he forfeits his fast, is obligated to fast again. Amazing.
Specify which days, that's fine.
Let's just do one halacha here. When Reuven tells Shimon, I am forbidden to you like a dedication offering, or you are forbidden to benefit from me. It is forbidden for Shimon to benefit from Reuven. If he transgresses and benefits from him, he's not liable for lashes because Shimon did not say anything. Right? Shimon didn't accept it. If he accepted it, then it's one thing. Reuven said it. So now that Shimon benefited from him, he doesn't get lashes. Reuven is permitted to derive benefit from Shimon because he not forbid this to himself. Right? That's not what his vow was. So amazing. All right, folks.